date, and that he should be bearing that in mind when he goes off to speak to Putin.
And you'd like to hear that from her today?
I'd like to hear that from her today.
What do you say? Right, I think we're just going to interrupt because I think we can go to Chequers, or certainly close to it, where that press conference and the Prime Minister and the President are, and talk to the man behind the interview. No, not Donald Trump, I'm afraid, but nearly as good, Tom Newton-Dunn, the political editor. Tom, how did you get that interview?
Hi Joe, sorry about our technological progress here. It's Chequers is a bit to be in the middle of nowhere with very little reception anyway, anyhow. Anyway, well, it took weeks of lobbying the White House, the US Embassy with dozens of emails, making a bid, and to our immense surprise, it appeared to have worked. We got 24 hours notice on Tuesday to get there, to Brussels. We were there and still didn't really get there, and really, I suppose, knew for sure when we walked into the room with him.
Right. I mean, a political grenade in so many ways. What's your takeaway in terms of where this leaves the special relationship? The trade deal is dead, it seems, in the water before it's even started.
Well, you would certainly think that if you read and hear all Donald Trump's words to us. Now, I think several things happened in that room. First of all, he spoke from the heart and spoke as an impassioned ideological Brexiteer, which is what we know him to be, without really any forethought of the consequences of what he would say, and speaking emotionally as a man rather than as the leader of the free world. My bet is we'll see a rather different Donald Trump today. He won't really want to have come here and completely upset the apple cart with a special relationship. He doesn't really want to do it in Theresa May, and I think he will have potentially realised the error of his diplomatic ways, and we'll see him put a warm arm around Theresa May at the press conference. So the trade deal, I still think it's probably make or break in terms of how the Brexit package ends up that Theresa May is proposing that she can get any of that through. But I think it will look a lot better by the end of the press conference than it does perhaps now. Right. I mean, the thing is, Tom, you're implying that he might have realised the error of his ways. So this was a mistake? He misspoke in that sense? It doesn't seem in any sense to reflect that, the interview that you did with him. And we're also now hearing that he might reset his comments with you in the press conference later on. Listen, this is the Donald Trump we all know well. He's eminently capable of saying one thing one day and then completely opposite thing the next day. He's not a normal politician, and I think this is why we got the interview that we did, is that he doesn't speak like a politician. He spoke from the heart, completely unscripted and unplanned. Well, I can tell you for a fact his press aides in the room having a near meltdown. They wanted to stop the interview at the appointed 10-minute slot which we were given, and Trump insisted on going on for 28 minutes, obviously, which was a joy to us. But this is both the advantage and disadvantage. The disadvantage of him shooting from the hip and saying what he wants is it causes merry hell when he visits other countries and the diplomacy goes down the Swanee. The advantage is people love him for it. He's not a normal politician. His base adore the way he talks, his honesty and his humanity and these sorts of things. So it could well be this sort of slightly shambolic, travelling hand grenade. It's exactly the sort of thing that gets him re-elected in 2 years' time.
All right. Well, look, Tom, I know that there are technical difficulties, but we're going to stick with you there at Chequers and have a listen to someone else who was insulted by the President, Donald Trump. Actually, he's insulted him before, and that's the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. Let's hear what Donald Trump had to say about him.
You have a mayor who's done a terrible job in London. He's done a terrible job. And take a look at the terrorism that's taking place. Look at what's going on in London. I think he's done a terrible job. But I think that all of this immigration has really changed the fabric of Europe. Now, I speak as an outsider when I say that, but I speak as somebody who loves Europe. And I think it's too bad. So I think he's done a very bad job on terrorism. I think he's done a bad job on crime, if you look. You take a look at your hospital in London, you know what I'm talking about, with all of the horrible things going on there, with all of the crime that's being brought in.
Well, Tom, I don't know if we still got you there at Chequers, but obviously you know what he said in terms of Sadiq Khan. He's done a pretty bad job on terrorism. We're going to listen to what Sadiq said in response. But what did you feel when he said that?
Well, for me, that was actually the most controversial part of the interview. The Brexit stuff we knew would make headlines, but to accuse the Mayor of London of being responsible for the terrorist acts we've seen on the London streets over the last year or so was pretty extraordinary, without any form of substantiation whatsoever. His argument appears to be Sadiq Khan is responsible for letting in migrants from parts of the world who want to go and wreak chaos on our streets. But of course, Sadiq Khan is not in charge of immigration policy anyway. That's the Home Office. Now, I looked this up and to work out where on earth this extraordinary row had begun with Sadiq Khan, because it was, I'd say, it was the president who brought up Sadiq Khan first. We didn't actually ask him about it, but it came into one of his answers. And it goes back to 2015, December 2015, and Donald Trump, you'll remember, made a promise on the campaign trail that he would ban all Muslims entry to the US, in his words, to work out what the hell is going on. Sadiq Khan, as the Muslim Mayor of London, criticised that before, in fact, even Sadiq Khan had been elected as mayor. And this incredible feud has been rolling ever since. And at every opportunity, Donald Trump takes to take another lump out of Sadiq to get his words across. But I think, for me, that was probably the most uncomfortable bit of it. We thought hard about how we'd report it, because it's such an incendiary thing to say and so blatantly untrue as well. But I suppose we took the decision that the president's words need to be reported.
Well, it's interesting that you didn't actually provoke the answer. He actually brought it up himself. Sadiq Khan's been interviewed fairly broadly this morning. Let's hear what the Mayor of London said in response to Trump's comments.
I'm not going to lose any sleep that President Trump doesn't like me. The key thing is that actually London, like other cities across Europe and around the world, are grappling with the evil of terrorism. We, unfortunately, last year lost 14 people because of these terrorists. Manchester lost 22. Cities across Europe, from Nice to Paris to Berlin to Brussels, have lost many, many more people because of the acts of terrorists, and we stand united against them. And it's for President Trump to explain why he singled me out being responsible for these acts of terrorism and no other mayor or no other leader.
Right, well, that was Sadiq Khan. We're going to say goodbye to Tom Newton-Dunn. Thanks for bearing with us today, and good luck this afternoon at Chequers. Claire, listening to that, why do you think that Sadiq Khan was singled out? Why is he continually singled out for insults from President Trump?
Well, I think we know it's because he's a Muslim mayor. I think that it's also the case that the row between them has been quite brutal. I mean, Sadiq Khan has not been diplomatic in his criticism of Trump. I'm not saying he should be, I'm just pointing that out. And we know that Trump takes these things personally. And the funny thing about it was he actually started making some points about, and he's responsible for crime and so. I think actually there are criticisms of Sadiq Khan about crime, but the terrorism thing, as Tom has pointed out, is an outrage. Outrageously ridiculous. But you felt like he'd been briefed by Katie Hopkins at that point.
It does feel as if there have been lines sort of given to him.
But these are kind of popular things that are said on social media and things like that. But I just don't think that will have any. I don't think that will hit home at all with anyone in the UK.
What do you think?
That makes him feel
Kevin, do you think it will hit home?
Maybe with the far right, with some extremists, but most people will just shrug it off, because the problem with Trump is he says things that are just demonstrably untrue. He just lies all the time, whether he was claiming that he won Wisconsin and Reagan didn't at NATO. Reagan won Wisconsin twice. He had better polling numbers than Abraham Lincoln. There weren't any polling numbers in the middle of the 19th century. He's just a complete and utter loose cannon, just firing off.
Right, I'm going to introduce Sakina Sheikh. She's in the studio with us. We're going to talk to you in just a moment. You've been protesting about the Trump visit. But before we come to you, guess what? We're returning to the white paper Wheel of Fortune, number 2. So go for it. Hit the red button and let's see. Hopefully we won't get the common rule book again. I'm sure this has all been worked out. Let's have a look where we stop. And it is that catchy phrase, the facilitated customs arrangement, that came into being quite recently. Joel, explain.
Yeah, Hi Joe, this is another important and controversial idea in the white paper. This is what it says on page 16. The UK's proposal for a free trade area includes the phased introduction of a new facilitated customs arrangement that would remove the need for customs checks and controls between the UK and the EU, while enabling the UK to control tariffs for its own trade with the rest of the world. The government came up with this idea because they have got two seemingly contradictory objectives. One is that they want to have frictionless trade with the EU, and then they want to set their own tariffs with the rest of the world, with Australia and New Zealand or whoever, which will be different from the EU's tariffs and probably lower. And so that's this solution to those two objectives. So what will actually happen in the future is that when goods come into the UK and they're just going to stay in the UK, then the UK's tariff will apply. But when goods are coming into the UK and then going on to the EU, the UK will charge the EU's tariffs and then give that extra money to the EU, so the EU will always get its tariff. It's another very controversial aspect of the White Paper. A lot of the Brexiteers aren't happy about it. David Davis, the former Brexit Secretary, spoke to our colleague Laura Kunsberg on Monday, and he said there were two big reasons why he had resigned. One was this one, the facilitated customs arrangement, and the other one was the common rule book that we spoke about earlier.
Right, Joe, well done. I'm glad you're explaining it and not the guests in the studio.
Head hurts.
We'll be coming back to you again, Joel, with another one of the definitions in our white paper, Wheel of Fortune. I introduced Sakina Sheikh earlier as a protester, an anti-Trump protester, and also from the grassroots movement Momentum, which supports Jeremy Corbyn. I think we can also we're going to talk to James Carafano, who used to work for Trump during the transition period. He had his own transition period too. But first of all, why are you protesting?
Well, protesting Trump because I think, as he's done when he's arrived here, he creates a politics of division, of chaos. I think there's an undertone of racism and misogyny and bigotry